Hi everyone, Paul here from FamilyWheels.ca with another car review for your growing family. And this week we are in the brand new 2018 Audi S4. This of course is the souped up version of the very popular A4 sedan. And when I say brand new, they have really been playing with the recipe here, but it was already a really excellent car. So let's hop on board and see if they've fiddled with it too much. That's this week here on Family Wheels. So when I say here that Audi went back to the drawing board for the S4, I'm not kidding. Everything in this vehicle has been tweaked. The exterior, you're going to have to look closely to notice the differences, but they're there. LED headlights and tail lights now come standard. I love the 4-point exhaust on this thing too. It looks so good. It differentiates itself from the regular A4 with some sporty bodywork. It makes it look like this is a sporty, capable vehicle, but it's also not overstated like we see in some other sport-tuned sedans. You hop inside and it's the same kind of story. It's the similar interior to what we saw in the All-Road when I was testing it a few months ago on the channel, and I was so impressed with that interior. It's clean, it's sleek, it doesn't look too, ostentatious. We've got this great carbon fiber inlay to give it a sporty feel, aluminum accents. If you look all around the cabin, you're going to see the Audi Sport logo emblazoned throughout to show you that this is a sport-minded car. But without question, the biggest changes to the S4 have to be when you lift open the hood to this thing. Previously, the S4 had a supercharged power plant, and that gave great off-the-line performance, but the mid-range power band wasn't as solid. Now they've bumped up into a turbocharged V6, which gives you 21 more horsepower, more torque, and you also get better fuel economy out of that. The result is a car that feels just a little bit more sluggish off the line, but once you get it up to speed, man, does this thing go. And the previous version of this car had an average fuel economy of 11.2 liters per 100 kilometers, and now we're averaging on highway and city roads about 9.8 liters per 100 kilometers, which is really respectable for a sport-tuned car like this. 354 horsepower and a 0 to 100 kilometer an hour time of 4.3 seconds. This thing is no slouch. The other big change for 2018 though are the transmissions. So previously you could get the S4 with a 6-speed manual. That's not the case anymore, and not everyone's going to love that. If you want a manual with this kind of car, you're going to have to get the regular A4 to get it these days. Speaking of the A4, in the previous generation of this car, the S4 had the 7-speed dual clutch transmission, while the regular A4 had the 8-speed automatic, and Audi's actually flipped that around for 2018. The 8-speed automatic is now here in the S4, while the regular A4 has that 7-speed dual clutch. Audi has been tinkering around with this 8-speed, and they're now saying that you can actually get faster shift times out of this transmission than you could the previous generation of that dual clutch, and I think they're right. We've got standard paddle shifters here on this car, and when you do get playing around in the corners, man, when you're shifting down, those gears are right there when you want them. On top of that, we have refined, sportier suspension, we have a sportier steering feel, we have beefed up 6-piston sport brakes, we've got a lighter vehicle despite the fact that it's longer and wider by a little bit, and it's also got improved safety features. The new A4 was given a top Safety Pick Plus rating from the Insurance Institute for Highway Safety, and that should also apply here to the S4. But with all of those things and all of those improvements, we're also seeing the price climb up by a few $1,000s here for 2018. But some far better standard equipment in the S4 helps explain that extra hit to your wallet. The base trim on this car now starts at $58,000 up here in Canada. For that, you get into the progressive trim, and the list of what you're seeing on board is pretty impressive. All versions of the S4 get the same 3-liter turbocharged V6. We also get Quattro all-wheel drive. That's not Quattro Ultra, by the way, like we see in the regular A4 or the now new 2018 Q5. So if you're a Quattro purist and you have your doubts about Quattro Ultra, this is the old school, more performance-oriented Quattro system here on the S4. We also have 18-inch wheels with performance tires, those quad exhaust pipes off the back end, which look amazing. LED headlights and tail lights now come standard, sport suspension, heated sport seats with adjustable bolster support and massage functions come standard, an 8.3-inch display and infotainment system system with navigation now coming standard and a rear backup camera. Apple CarPlay and Android Auto also come standard, and you're not going to have any difference in terms of performance in this versus the slightly more popular Technique package. That's what we're driving around here this week. On board this Technique package, the things that really make this pop are a 360-degree wraparound camera that you can use for parking in tight spots. We also have this virtual cockpit from Audi, which I think is the best on the market. It looks so good. It's entirely digital, right in front of the driver, very customizable. A lot of other companies trying to duplicate what Audi's done here. It looks so good. And then if you're a real audiophile, this Technique package also includes a Bang & Olufsen sound system, which does sound amazing. And then this Technique package is rounded out by 19-inch alloy wheels, which also look really good on this car. But I gotta say that for a car that is so performance oriented, that does have excellent, standard equipment with great fit and finish, it's made in Germany, good attention to detail, I'm actually pretty impressed with the price on this car. We compare this to that BMW 4 Series that I was driving around a couple of weeks ago, and geez, it felt like when I was looking at the options, like I was just getting nickel and dimed at every corner with that car. The options were out of control, whereas with this vehicle, once you bump up into this Technique package, that's kind of it. We've got the $350 second row heated seats as an option here in this tester, and we also have the $2,100 advanced driver assistance package, which is giving you lane keep assist, adaptive cruise control, pre-collision braking, that kind of thing. But other than that, really, once you get into that base $58,000 car, in terms of performance, in terms of a lot of the other really excellent standard features you'd hope for, you're getting it. And it means that for a lot of people who are shopping around for the A4, that they're actually going, maybe it is worth bumping into this more performance-oriented vehicle. In fact, Glenmore Audi here in Calgary, the company that gave me this car to test here this week, say that they're seeing a lot more S4s driving off the lot these days. Traditionally, 9 A4s sold for every 1 S4 that Glenmore Audi sold, and they're just not seeing those numbers anymore. People are more interested in this vehicle, and it's because when you put it into comfort mode, here with the drive select function, it feels actually very composed. It doesn't have super stiff sport suspension that's going to rattle the teeth right out of your face. Instead, you get good fuel economy, you get a comfortable second row, and you get a vehicle that does feel pretty darn comfortable for daily driving. But it's when you pop this vehicle into dynamic mode with this drive select function that this car really does kind of have a split personality. The cabin under normal driving offers a pretty astonishingly quiet cabin at 58 decibels at 100 kilometers an hour, according to our decibel reader. But in dynamic mode, the revs climb, these valves open in the exhaust system, the engine all of a sudden has this really amazing exhaust note to it. Audi does have a microphone in the engine bay of this car, and that engine sound is piped up through a speaker just at the base of the windshield. The windshield acts like a big sort of reflective sound device and gives you a bit more engine sound when you're driving this car along. Some are going to think that that is super phony and they don't like that idea. Some just love the oral experience of it all and don't care where it comes from. But if you don't like that kind of thing, you can turn it off in the settings. Personally, I think that it just makes this car that much more fun to drive. So I'm actually using the car's GPS a little bit differently than I do on a typical test drive. Rather than just getting from A to B, I'm zooming way out here with the S4 to try and find nice windy sections of road because this car is just so much fun to get into the twists with. So we've gotten to this section here. I've popped it into dynamic mode. You can hear that engine note that I'm talking about, those little exhaust burbles. I get into a tight corner like this and it's just glued. Honestly, you guys, it's so good. I wish you could try and drive this yourselves because it does not feel like a $58,000 car. It feels like something that's punching so much further above its weight class. And the steering feel has improved a lot here for 2018 too. It feels much more connected to the road. I've heard other drivers and testers say that the steering in this car still feels a little bit numb, but I gotta be honest, I just don't think it is. And we don't have any of that pesky oversteer that we deal with in a lot of all-wheel drive cars because of the way that Audi has tuned this Quattro all-wheel drive system. When you do put it into dynamic mode, it brings the back end around so nicely in this car. Oh, I could do this all day long. Let's zoom out and see if I can find the next section. of windy roads because it is an addictive experience here in the S4. And once you do get into these twisties, like I'm having fun on here right now, these seats really do hold you really nicely because of those adjustable lumbar supports. It means that they can really kind of get honed into just the way you'd like them. I do have a couple of beefs about the seats though. First up, ventilated seats aren't even an option on this car, so if you live in a hotter climate, you're probably going to feel like you're sticking to them a little bit because you don't have that option of being able to get some cool air up around your back. My other issue too is that there's no adjustable headrest here on the front rows, so you've got this very integrated kind of sport seat look, but it means that for taller guys like me at 6'2", that I'm not having my headrest right where I'd like it. I'd like it to be a little bit higher just for comfort's sake and even for safety's sake. The downside, of course, to going with this S package, much like we saw in that SQ5 that I was testing last year and loved so much, is that you have to get performance rims to fit onto your winter tires if you're going to have winter tires too, because we've got such big brakes on this car that you can't just get a standard set of steel rims and call it a day. You're going to have to get big performance alloys. You're going to have to get a second set of tires and rims in order to make that happen, and that price does add up fairly quickly. Well, here's another number that's increased for 2018 in the S4 and the A4 by extension, and that's second row legroom, which is increased just slightly, just under an inch more for 2018, which might not sound like much, but here in this sports sedan segment, I've been in some pretty tight second rows, and I was expecting the same here in this vehicle, yet here we have it. I'm sitting back here really very comfortably as a tall 6'2" guy. I've got enough headroom, and with the driver's seat adjusted to someone who's 6 foot tall, I've even got a little bit of space between my shins and the front seat. That's another thing about this car, is that the back of the front seats are entirely plastic. So if you do have kids back here and they're scuffing up the back of these seats, kicking them, it's going to be easier to wipe down. You don't have to worry about them wrecking your leather. And when we do talk about the leather, even though it does feel high-end, supple on your hand, it also feels like it would be pretty tough over the long term. It's going to deal with abuse pretty well. When we talk about the fact that this car doesn't offer ventilated seats at all, that might be something you don't like about it, but I actually really like that feature because ventilated seats mean perforated seats, and perforated seats, especially here in the second row, aren't good for families because all those tiny holes are going to fill up with junk and stuff when kids spill it, and you don't have to worry about that here in the S4. And when we look at this car for car seats, I wasn't expecting much. I expected it to be kind of a write-off, especially for rear-facing car seats, but front-facing this week, Roger's been really comfortable, and then flipped this convertible kind of mid-sized rear-facing car seat that we have around. And this was the really big surprise. We actually have 28.5 inches of legroom from the back of the front seat cushion up to the glove box. It means that if you do have rear-facing car seats in this thing, you're going to be able to fit a tall person up front there still really comfortably. The numbers don't lie when you pull out the measuring tape, but it's just not a number I was expecting. Now, if you are expecting 5 people to ride in this vehicle, don't expect it to be comfortable for the person sitting in this seat because there is a big hump in the middle seat of this car here in the second row. So really, for all intents and purposes, especially for long drives, it's going to be a 4-passenger vehicle. Now, in terms of trunk capacity here on the S4, it's increased as well for 2018. All of these dimensions kind of creeping toward the traditional size of the A6, the slightly larger sedan in the Audi lineup. And that means that for 2019, I wouldn't be surprised if when that vehicle gets redesigned and reintroduced, that we see a larger version of the A6 coming out as well. But the result here is 368 liters of trunk capacity. Not a huge trunk, but certainly enough to fit our standardized trunk test. A stroller was able to fit lengthwise. We've got a diaper bag, a backpack, a couple of bags of groceries, and a soccer ball, all fitting in there with some extra space to spare. And it does have a center pass-through, so you could throw some skis into this thing with that all-wheel drive, head out into the mountains for a day on the slopes. So not a terribly large trunk, but still pretty usable for a sedan in this class. Well, Audi has done something really impressive here with the S4, which is that they've made it bigger than ever, yet it feels more nimble than ever. It's safer than ever. It's got great fuel economy, yet it's sportier than ever. It makes for a great everyday driver. It doesn't feel too harsh, yet when you want it to be, this thing really comes alive. It could be a great everyday vehicle that really can do a lot of different things for you, depending on what you feel like on any given day. They may have messed with the recipe, but it is better than ever. Now, next time I see you, we're going to be in another Audi vehicle, courtesy of the folks at Glenmore Audi. This time around, it'll be the brand new 2018 Q5. It's the best seller in Canada, but it's being made in Mexico as of 2018. So let's see how it stacks up. We've loved that vehicle historically. We'll see how this new Mexican Q5 does in our test in about a week from now. Until then, thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you soon.